We moved into our house a little over 2 years ago, and it had a trash can built into a cabinet. I believe it's a Rev-A-Shelf system. Never been hugely fond of them, but having a dog, it's nice to keep the trash kind of tucked away. Now, of course, over the holidays, this managed to break. So my project today is to get a new system built and put in place. I looked at quite a few options online, but I didn't really love any of them. So I thought, why buy something when I can build something for probably twice the cost? So that's going to be the project for today, getting a new system built in place so that we can hide the trash cans away, keep the pooch out of them, keep them tucked away. I've sat down and had a little bit of a think, and I've done a sketch, as you can tell by my elementary sketching skills at best. This is kind of the shape I'm going for. It's going to be a little higher in the front because the cabinet doors will attach here at the front, and then it will extend back and the trash cans will sit down in this sort of carriage. I'm thinking it's going to be about 12 inches high at the front, maybe 16 inches high, going down to about 10 inches at the back. And then so this is all going to be 3/4 inch plywood. And then it's going to sit on a base of 1/2 inch plywood. And I'm going to have a little sort of tunnel or cavity here where I'll have the bottom. And I'm going to put my heavy duty drawer slides here. And that's what will attach and let it slide out. From the top, I'm going to cut some pieces that I can screw in, and that will be sort of creating the cavities that the trash cans will sit down into. And then I'm still figuring out the front. I figure I'm going to dado in the bottom, then I'll have a front panel, and then these pieces will just screw into the sides here. And then I've kind of got my side elevation. Again, just kind of thinking through what I want the design to be. So the body, again, will be all 3/4 inch plywood. This base that will sit in there and I'll attach to the bottom of my cabinet will be 1/2 inch ply. I've got some 100-pound drawer slides I'm going to try to use because I believe that Rev-A-Shelf system that we have in there currently is 100-pound drawer slides. It's lasted a good long while, so we'll see if that works. If I need to, I can get heavier duty drawer slides. And then I already have the 35-quart cans, so I'm going to reuse those. So I just need to get the cans, bring them out into the shop, and so that will sort of get me my final dimensions. I believe the existing system I've got is maybe 16 inches wide, so I might go just a little bit wider, and then we'll have to play with the height and the depth to get everything to line up. I only have a 24-inch wide by 24-inch deep cabinet, but I'm using 21-inch drawer slides, so I'll be able to fit everything in, and that'll be sort of my maximum dimension. So this is what I'm thinking right now for laying out the project. So I've got a rough plan. I brought the trash cans out so I can do some measuring to figure out if my dimensions are going to work or not. My wife has given me a deadline of getting this done and get the kitchen fixed by the end of the weekend. So I'm just going to jump into some voiceover shots as I sit down and really figure out how to make this work, break down my plywood, and come up with how this is all going to fit together. So just fiddling with some layout, I've got some rough numbers for my sketchbook, and I'm translating those to a piece of plywood to see how they'll actually work in the real world. And I've got my trash cans, so I'm going to bring them over and see how they fit. I'm flipping them upside down because this is my max dimension, the tops of the trash cans. So as long as those fit within the boundaries of the box I've defined, I should be okay. So I'm just using some offcut plywood to sort of check and make sure everything fits, and it looks like it's gonna work okay. So I'm just tracing the top of the trash cans to give me a reference point on this will ultimately become the bottom panel for the trash can drawer assembly. And so just marking where those go and then flipping them over to make sure that they fit, and I have adequate clearance all the way around and everything looks good. So now I'm just checking that my table saw is square and my crosscut is square to that, and that looks good. So I'm just going to cross-cut these panels. These are going to be the top panels, or the bottom panels rather. And I'm going to make 2 of them because I have some extra plywood, and I wasn't sure at this point exactly how I was going to make everything. So just get those cut, measure them to make sure that they are correct, and then I'm going to label them and set them aside so we can start breaking up the plywood that's going to make the base and the sides for the rest of the shelf. So I'm just going to throw my foam pads down and get my 1/2 inch plywood up so I can make some cross cuts with the track saw. Now the edge was a little damaged, so I'm going to rip just the tiniest little bit off so I get a nice clean and square edge to work from. And then I'm going to take my TSO parallel guides. So so I can get just a perfectly accurate cut here. I'm going to measure up to cut cross cut for what's going to become the bottom panel. I'm just going to knock that off and then measure over, and then take this over to the table saw, and I'll cross cut my bottom piece. And this is all of the 1/2-inch plywood I'm going to use for this project. So the rest of that sheet will get repurposed into something else around the shop. Now I'm going to wrestle my 3/4-inch plywood over, get that up onto the table. Fortunately, I had a good edge on this. It was square, so I didn't need to rip the edge. So then I just kind of lay out where I think everything's going to need to be, measure, and put my track saw guide there and get a cross cut. And this is going to be for both of the side pieces, and this 1 4-foot wide piece of plywood is going to let me cross cut for both sides. So take that over to the table saw and cross cut, and now I've got my side panels. And then just doing some layout, figuring where my bottom shelf is going to go and getting that line marked. And then I'm going to take a piece of the plywood itself to mark the top for the dado that I'm ultimately going to cut. That way I can just sort of check my layout one last time. Then I'm measuring for where the back is going to be, because it's going to be a little bit shorter. And I'm going to use a 1-gallon paint can to mark the radiuses, so I just get a nice curve there. Then I'm going to do one final fit up with the trash cans in place, make sure that my panels, my stretchers for the front and back will fit, and then we'll work on getting the dados cut and getting those curves cut in. So I'm going to put dados in to hold the bottom, so I need to change my stack out. I've measured my plywood at 11/16, so I'm setting up the dado stack for an 11/16 inch cut, and I'm just making a quick test cut. Figure I'm never going to get it on the first try, and what do you know, I get it on the first try. That just never happens. Fits nice and tight. I'm probably never going to repeat this again, but I got it there. So now I'm just making my dado on the 2 panels, and then doing my test fit up to make sure that, miracle of miracles, it fits, and it does. So I make my dado on the other panel, and it's just a through dado. And then I take it over to the bandsaw, and I'm just going to knock out that curve. So I have the higher front and the rear, and it's just an S curve. It's predominantly decorative. It just makes it look nice, and that's really the only purpose for it. And then I take everything over to my oscillating sander, and I get those curves worked out, because I'm cutting up to the line but trying not to cut the line. And so just work both of those panels until they're pretty much the same, and get them nice and smooth and get those curves worked in nicely. Okay, I'm finally doing some dry fit to make sure everything comes together nicely, and I'm starting to visualize what this is going to look like in actual space and not just some rough concepts sketched in the sketchbook. So I have my base plate here. This will sit in the cabinet, and it'll get screwed down so it holds everything in place. Then I need to cut a couple of runners underneath that attach to this base plate that hold the drawer slides so that this entire assembly can articulate out. And then I need to cut a front panel and a back panel, and then the pieces that will hold these cans in place. But I think everything is coming together well. This should fit into the cabinets with no problem, and I think it's going to work. So it's nice to finally start to see it come together in 3D space, and validation that what was in my head at least will kind of work in the real world. I'm just throwing some pocket holes into the pieces that are going to serve as the front and the back, and then mocking everything up to make sure that it fits. Then I'm just going to check for square to make sure that I'm reasonably square, and I am. Making sure the trash cans fit one more time. And then I need to figure out the piece for the middle. I want it to hold the trash can, so I'm using a washer as an offset to scribe. And then I'm going to cut this out on the bandsaw, and I'm going to keep doing this until I get a really nice fit. And I'm going to do this for both the front and the back. I take several passes, getting narrower and narrower until I get a nice fit, and it's just going to kind of lock those trash cans in place. So right now I have a nice friction fit on this piece, which its sole purpose is just to give the cans a place to register and hold them up. So I think I'll just attach this with a couple of pocket hole screws from underneath, because it's not structural, it's just holding everything together and, like I said, keeping the cans from shaking about. I had thought about putting some filler pieces on the sides or maybe in the corners, but honestly, I don't think I'm gonna need to do that. It'll rattle around a little bit, but those aren't gonna go anywhere. All of the parts of this trash can holder that are going to be visible, like the tops, the side pieces, I'm going to put some edge banding on those. Doesn't really need it. It'll just make it look nicer. This is I believe it's a maple edge band, and this is a birch plywood. But once this is on and I throw a little bit of poly on this, you'll never be able to tell the difference. Let's get some edge banding on. I've got the iron heating up. We'll put some edge band on. How many times can I say edge band? Edge band, edge band, edge band. At some point, it just loses all meaning. The words lose all meaning. Okay, edge banding. So just breaking everything down to put some edge banding on and throwing a couple of clamps on to hold my pieces vertical. Just measuring out the edge banding and get it clipped, and then use an iron to heat and stick it on. And these square pieces were no problem. Using a roller for some pressure. Like I said, these square pieces were no problem. Where I really ran into some difficulties was getting those radiuses done. Because the thing I didn't think about was the fact that my iron doesn't go into those inside curves at all. So I was able to get the bottoms done, I was able to get the outside curve done, but I just couldn't get that inside curve to save my life. And as you can see, I really fought with it. And I had to take my glasses off to use my old eyes to figure out what's going on. I tried some super glue, sticking it down, re-sticking the back part, and that kind of worked, but certainly not ideal. In hindsight, I probably should have gotten my hot air gun out. I didn't think about that until this was well into being frustrating 101. But I kept at it, perseverance and some super glue, and I was able to make it work passably, but it was a pain in the neck. So just getting some glue into the dado joints and getting that all spread around, wiping up any that got out of that groove, and fitting my panel in and giving it a few love taps to get it seated in there nice and square. That's all looking good. And I'm putting some glue into the other panel and getting that spread around before bringing the panels together. And once I get them together, this is a really tight assembly. So I'm just gonna throw some clamps on it. I don't think I'm gonna actually run any screws in. Get that all clamped up so that makes a nice tight joint and that glue can dry. And then I am just gonna bring that back panel in and get everything squared up. As you can see, that it's splayed out a little bit. Get that clamped and then run my pocket hole screws in. Now this isn't glued in the back, but it's got quite a few pocket hole screws, so I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. And then get it flipped around, get my front stretcher in, get that clamped and pocket hole screwed into place. And everything is now assembled and put together. Just need to let that glue dry. I'll go ahead and take the clamps off of the parts that were pocket holed, and then bring my trash cans over to start marking for my cross piece where I want that to go, get that put in place and make sure everything fits just like I want it to, and that is looking nice. So I think I can put some finish on that cross piece and the edge banding. So I'm trying this new finish. It's Gelled Polycoat 250. It is a polyurethane, a wipe-on, and it's a really heavy gel. So I'm curious to see how this works out. Now it says it can yellow over time, but I have a little bit of yellow in this UV finish birch. And so a little bit of warmth on this piece. I ended up recutting this piece out of hardwood maple. I just couldn't get the edge banding to follow the curves. And so a little bit of yellowing on this, I think it'll help the maple match the finish on the rest of the trash drawer. So I'm okay with a little yellowing occurring. So I'm gonna get some of this and put it on. Opening the can, it's a pretty heavy gel, and I'm just using a clean microfiber rag to really work it in and then wipe it off. And it goes on super easy. You need about 2 hours between coats, gives it a nice, rich warmth. Now comes what might be the trickiest part of the entire build. I need to get these runners affixed so that they are parallel to each other and square to my base plate, which is going to fit in the bottom of the cabinet. They also need to be parallel to the runners on the actual cabinet itself, which is sitting off to the side. You can't see it on the video. And they need to account for the width of these two slides, which should be 1 inch. You're supposed to give yourself an inch of clearance when you're making drawers for this style of slide. So I have marked on my base exactly where the runners are for the cabinet that will sit on top of it. So I know, in theory, where these support runners need to be, and then they both need to move a ½ inch towards each other so that it is 1 inch in total. And that's going to be the tricky part, getting everything all lined up and hopefully perfect-ish so that I can assemble these, get the slides on, and then get the base on top, and it'll all slide nice and smoothly. So that is the next step, and that's the one that I'm most concerned about getting right. Because if I screw this up, that new cabinet's not going to slide any better than the old one with the slides all messed up. So working on getting my layout for my cleats that attach to the bottom panel, and they have to be parallel to each other and square to the front. So that's going to be the critical dimension. Just measuring my drawer slides to make sure that my 1 inch total offset is indeed what it needs to be, and it was. So now I'm just putting the drawer up here to sort of measure where everything goes and check my fits with a drawer slide in place so that I have got a pretty good idea of where these need to go. And then I'm just putting a little bit of CA glue down and putting some activator on the runner so I can get that tacked down and in place so it will hold it in exactly where I want it to be, so I can run some screws in the bottom. And doing the same thing on the other side, a little CA glue, a little activator, a little pressure to hold everything down, and that will hold that piece nice and sturdy. So I'm just gonna get it flipped over. And I'm using a countersink bit here after I draw my line so I know exactly where I wanna run those, and measuring off, just using a countersink bit to run in some pilot holes, and that'll recess the head so that this will sit nice and flush. And then just running in some 1¼ inch screws to hold everything in there. And that is gonna serve as the basis. That'll just sit inside my cabinet. Then I am measuring and installing for the drawer slide and making sure that works, doing that to the other side, and get both of those installed. And then I go to fit my drawer, and it is way too tight. I don't know if you can see in the video, but I could barely even get it down, and it certainly wasn't sliding anywhere. So need to figure out how to give myself a little bit more clearance, so busting out the sandpaper. And I start by just sanding the inside where those cleats need to attach. And then I have to get out the sander and doing another test. It's maybe a tiny bit better, but certainly not good enough. So doing some more sanding and then breaking out the heavy duty tools, hacking at it with a plane, and finally managed to get enough of it off that I can make it slide. And then I just work those front slide extensions in, get everything working, and then take the drawer off so that I can finish screwing the slide extensions in, get all of those installed, and then put my maker's mark on the bottom. I need to get some better templates or stencils, and then just writing the date so I can remember when I made this. This is the first time I'm seeing everything all together with the cans in place, with the base, with the drawer slides. And the good news is it opens, it closes, it even has the soft close drawer slides, which is just, it's just a nice little feature. I know it's not a big deal, but it's those nice little things. And I'm quite happy with the way it's come together. I need to get a little bit of finish on the edge banding and some touch-ups where I got a little aggressive sanding trying to get the curves edge banding all flushed up. It's a little trickier than you think to make those cuts, at least for me. I also was able to use some sanding and some other more extreme measures to get the slides to fit, and it actuates nice and smoothly. Sometimes I feel like I'm a metal worker trapped inside of a woodworker's body. And to be fair, I am neither a real woodworker and I am absolutely not a metal worker, but I always shoot for exact tolerances. And I should know by now that in woodworking, exact tolerances are a recipe for failure. And so when I first put this together, I had it so tight that there was absolutely no way these slides were going to go on and then work. So I had to get aggressive with some sandpaper, and I used a little bit of a plane to hack at it. I don't know if that footage will make it into the video. So the good news is it works, and it works well. The bad news is I need to remember, don't try and get it dialed in to the absolute 1000th, because that's just down that path lies folly. So get a little bit of finish on it, probably take a day for it to cure, be able to get it installed in the kitchen tomorrow, which will make the wife happy, and I will be the hero for having completed this in about 2 days, which is the deadline that she gave me. Have it done before the end of the weekend. If she's happy, then she doesn't mind me spending time in the shop making more projects. Because the slides are so hard to take off, I'm contorting myself to run some screws in to the base plate in the cabinet, make sure it's held down nice and securely, nothing lifts up with that weight on the front. And just testing, and it's sliding nice and smoothly. I've got my drawer system installed in the cabinet. That seems to be fitting and working well. Now I need to turn my attention to getting these cabinet doors back on. Now, one thing that I hadn't really accounted on was how absolutely nasty and gross these have gotten from using this for trash storage. So I've wiped it down with some water and a microfiber cloth, but I probably need to get something a little bit stronger and give this a good scrubbing because it's kind of funky. The other thing I need to do is I want to keep these doors positioned exactly where they are because they have a good reveal. And the person who put this system in before me nailed, or stapled rather, and I think glued this strip of 1/4-inch plywood down here to keep the reveal at the bottom. I think I'm going to need to duplicate that at the top. So I've got to rummage around my scrap wood and see if I have any 1/4-inch plywood. Then I can take this old Rev-A-Shelf system off and hopefully can just position it where I want it, use some double stick tape to hold it to that new cabinet system, and then install it like a drawer face and come behind and drill in. I've got some solid wood here at the top and on the sides and in the middle, so I should be able to get a good bite, and that should hopefully complete the install. So that's the next step. The good news is I have some 1/4-inch by 1/2-inch staples, and I found some 1/4-inch plywood. I'm just going to tack this right here, kind of to match what they did on the bottom, and then I'll be able to take this Rev-A-Shelf system off. Now I'm going to take this off because I have a little bit of wonk, a technical term, in my doors. They're not exactly flush, and I'm hoping if I remove this, I can bring them back flush before I nail it in. And you gotta love when people use drywall screws everywhere. I mean, probably works fine. It's held on for at least 2+ years that I've lived here, and who knows how long before that. I think I remember reading that the kitchen was renovated in 2010, so it's been a while, but still, drywall screws? There we go. Now I can level these doors together, throw a couple more staples in to tack them. And I kind of don't want to remove this because I can already see it's pretty nasty under here. Somebody apparently really likes sunflower seeds. Yuck. All right, I'm going to get this cleaned up, and then we'll see about going and fitting it up in the kitchen. We've got our door front installed, and everything is working just fine. It opens all the way, and it pulls itself shut with those nice soft close hinges, which is a good thing because with the Rev-A-Shelf system, the drawer slides didn't stay closed at all, and frequently this would slide open. We had tried all sorts of little clasps and magnets to keep the drawer shut, but there's just a little bit of a impulse that you have to give it to pull it open, and then it pulls itself shut. The good news is I managed to get this installed and in place within the deadline that my wife gave me, so she's quite happy. We have trash again. There's one thing that I do need to fix, other than getting my dog out of the way. Come here, buddy. This bar is a little too thick, and it means that this back trash can sits back just a little too far to remove. I've got to take the front trash can out, and then I have to kind of pull this at an angle, and it gets hung up on this drawer hardware. So I do need to thin this bar a little bit. I think if I take another 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch off so that this can slide forward, everything will work just perfectly. I was kind of eyeballing it on my design, and I thought I had all of my tolerances, but the 22-inch drawer slide, I was mistaken, it's not a 21-inch drawer slide, doesn't pull quite far enough out to give me the clearance that I want. So I do need to fix that. But for now, it works, and as long as you take this front trash can out, you can get the back trash can out. So I'm going to call this a success for right now. I think this project is wrapped up. If you made it this far in the video, I do appreciate it and sure would like it if you gave me a thumbs up. And if you like the kind of things that I do around here, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching.